Forget crowns, forget thrones. There exists a power older than empires, forged not by the sword, but by the keys of heaven. They crowned kings. They excommunicated tyrants. They turned back armies with a word. For 2,000 years, while dynasties rose and fell, one institution outlasted them all. This is the story of the papacy, the men who dared to speak as God's voice on earth. From spiritual leadership, they navigated international diplomacy and military threats. This is an exploration into 5 pontiffs whose tenures became pivotal moments in history. Number 1. Saint Peter. Our journey begins not in a palace, but on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. Here, under the warm sun, a man named Simon, son of Jonah, plied his trade. His world was one of nets and boats, of daily toil to draw sustenance from the waters. He was a simple fisherman, his hands calloused by ropes, a man of the people, familiar with hardship and the simple rhythms of life under Roman occupation. Simon, later known as Peter, was a man of robust character, known for his impulsiveness and loyalty. He possessed a raw, fervent energy that drew others to him. But his life was forever changed when a radical preacher from Nazareth called him to a greater mission. "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." This was a pivotal moment, a turning point for him and for human spiritual history. Throughout Jesus' ministry, Peter often stood at the forefront, marked by both profound insight and human frailty. He dared to walk on water towards Jesus, only to falter when his faith wavered. At Caesarea Philippi, he declared Jesus' divine status, proclaiming, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." This confession elicited a response from Jesus, laying a conceptual cornerstone for the future church. Jesus uttered the momentous words, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven." In a moment that would shape 2,000 years of faith, Jesus declared, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." Words that would ignite controversy, devotion, and an unbroken line of successors leading to the Vatican itself. This pronouncement designated Peter as a foundational element of the nascent community of believers. The imagery of the rock signified stability and endurance, while the keys represented authority and stewardship, concepts central to the understanding of Petrine ministry and the papacy. But power came at a price. Betraying Christ in his darkest hour, Peter wept in shame, only to rise again in redemption. And when Rome sought to crush the fledgling church underfoot, Peter faced the ultimate test: martyrdom. Tradition says he demanded to be crucified upside down, unworthy to die as his Lord had. His blood watered the seeds of a global faith. Today, beneath St. Peter's Basilica, his bones whisper of sacrifice and the unbreakable foundation of 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide. From fisherman to the first pope, this is the legacy of St. Peter. Number 2. Leo the Great. We now advance into the heart of the 5th century. The Roman Empire is collapsing. Attila the Hun, the scourge of God, marches on Rome with an army of thousands. The emperor is powerless, the legions are broken. But one man stands between the eternal city and destruction: Pope Leo I. The once mighty Western Roman Empire, which had dominated the Mediterranean for centuries, was now in a state of precipitous decline, its internal structures fracturing under the weight of political corruption, economic instability, and relentless external pressures. The frontiers of the empire, once securely defended, were now open to invasion by successive waves of Germanic tribes: Goths, Vandals, Franks, and Huns. These incursions led to widespread devastation, the sacking of cities, including Rome itself on multiple occasions. Amidst this maelstrom of political decay and social disruption, the Christian Church began to emerge as a crucial element of continuity and a beacon of stability. It was into this challenging and volatile environment that Leo I, later to be known as Leo the Great, ascended to the papacy in 440 AD. His leadership would prove to be a critical factor not only in the survival of the city of Rome, but also in the strengthening of the authority and influence of the papal office during a truly formative period. Leo's early life and career prepared him well for the formidable tasks that lay ahead. Born into Roman nobility, Leo was no ordinary priest. Trained in the art of rhetoric, steeped in the wisdom of the ancients, he was a scholar, a diplomat, a warrior of words, and when crisis came, Rome would not find its savior in the emperor's palace, but in the Vatican. He served as a deacon under Pope Celestine I and Pope Sixtus III, undertaking important diplomatic missions, including one to Gaul to reconcile two rival Roman generals. Thus, when Sixtus III died, Leo was the unanimous choice to succeed him, chosen by the clergy and people of Rome, who recognized in him the strength and vision needed to navigate the treacherous currents of their time, a leader for an age of crisis. In 451 AD, at the Council of Chalcedon, Leo sent legates to be his thunderous voice across Christendom. Via his tome, a theological masterstroke, he declared Christ as both fully God and fully man. Heretics recoiled, the Church united, and with that, Leo cemented Rome as the supreme authority of faith. But Leo's ambition went deeper. He also laid ideological foundations that would endure for centuries, proclaiming that the Pope was no mere bishop, he was the heir of St. Peter, Christ's vicar on earth. For the first time, Rome wasn't just a city, it was the throne of divine power. His most iconic moment came in 452, when he personally confronted Attila the Hun, who had invaded Italy near the river Mincio. Rome lay virtually undefended, its emperor having fled. Yet against all odds, it was Leo, robed in ecclesiastical garments and armed with only diplomacy, who persuaded the so-called Scourge of God to turn back. The details of this meeting are shrouded in legend, but the impact was real. Leo had saved Rome without a sword being drawn. In Christian memory, it marked the rise of the moral power of the papacy over military force. Leo the Great didn't just survive history, he shaped it. From doctrine to diplomacy, he forged the papacy into a force that would outlast empires. The medieval church, the Renaissance, even today's Vatican, all stand on the foundation he built. Number 3. From the shadows of a monastery, a man would rise, whose words would set 3 continents ablaze. This is the story of Pope Urban II, and the speech that changed the world forever, born Odo of Châtillon-sur-Marne, around the year 1035. The man who would become Pope Urban II hailed from the noble Champagne region of France, a land steeped in feudal traditions and fervent piety. His early life was shaped by the powerful influence of the Abbey of Cluny. Within this great Benedictine monastery, Odo immersed himself in the rigorous discipline of monastic life. He rose to become prior, embracing the Cluniac ideals of a purified church, free from secular interference. This experience deeply informed his worldview and actions as a leader within the ecclesiastical hierarchy. Odo's talents did not go unnoticed by the champions of church reform. He became a close associate and fervent supporter of Pope Gregory VII. Under Gregory's tutelage, Odo served as Cardinal Bishop of Ostia from around 1080. He was deeply involved in the investiture controversy, the conflict over the right to appoint bishops and abbots. He learned the complexities of papal diplomacy and the challenges of asserting ecclesiastical authority. The papacy that Urban II inherited in 1088 was beset by profound challenges. The investiture controversy continued to rage, with the Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV supporting an anti-pope, Clement III. This schism fractured the unity of Western Christendom and hampered the papacy's ability to govern effectively. The Church was striving to assert its independence from lay control and to combat simony. It was a period of profound institutional introspection and an aggressive push to centralize authority within the Roman See. Urban II dedicated his pontificate to continuing and consolidating the ambitious agenda initiated by Gregory VII. He skillfully navigated the political waters, isolating the imperial anti-pope and rallying support from sympathetic rulers. His efforts were focused on building a more disciplined, unified, and spiritually robust clergy. This commitment to reform created a church more conscious of its universal mission and prepared for the unprecedented call to arms that Urban was soon to issue. The East was collapsing, Jerusalem lost for 450 years. Now a desperate cry from Constantinople, "Save Christendom from the unfaithful." Urban saw his moment. November 27, 1095, the most dangerous speech in history. Urban didn't just call for soldiers, he promised eternal salvation. "Take the cross," he roared, "and all sins will be forgiven." The response was volcanic, not since Constantine had Europe moved as one. Kings mortgaged their kingdoms. Peasants sewed crosses onto rags with their own hair. In Germany, entire villages marched east, led by a barefoot mystic named Peter the Hermit. His followers so desperate for weapons they forged scythes into swords. Urban's genius was making slaughter sacred. He borrowed an old Benedictine vow, "This cross shall be your monk's habit," and twisted it into a license for holy murder. For the first time, killing wasn't just permitted, it was penitential. Even God's army had payroll disputes. When Norman and Provençal crusaders sacked Christian Byzantium for supplies, Urban had to send secret letters pretending it never happened. The dream was pure, the execution decidedly not. And as for the violence, Peter the Hermit's mob butchered Jews in the Rhineland. The prince's crusade became a blood-soaked march. And Urban, he played all sides, denouncing violence at home while fueling holy war abroad. He died just 2 weeks before the Crusaders took Jerusalem, never knowing his words had birthed 2 centuries of holy slaughter. The ultimate irony, the man who launched the Crusades was later made a saint. Number 4. At the cusp of the 13th century, a new figure ascended to the papal throne. Meet the man who didn't just wear the crown of St. Peter, he reforged it into a weapon. At 37, Innocent III declared himself lower than God, but higher than man. Born Lotario dei Conti di Segni around 1160 into an aristocratic family from Anagni, he was endowed with exceptional intellectual gifts. He studied theology at the prestigious schools of Paris, under masters like Peter of Corbeil. He honed his understanding of jurisprudence at Bologna. Lotario's advancement within the Roman Curia was swift, a testament to his abilities and family connections. His uncle was Pope Clement III. He was made a cardinal deacon in 1190 at a remarkably young age. Despite a period of obscurity under Pope Celestine III, Lotario dedicated these years to writing theological treatises, including De Miseria Conditionis Humanae. Upon Celestine's death in January 1198, the cardinals elected Lotario as pope. He was only 37 years old, taking the name Innocent III, a name synonymous with the assertion of papal authority. Innocent III believed in the supreme authority of the papacy, a vision he articulated with clarity and force. The cardinals thought they were electing a scholar. What they got was a sovereign. Within hours of his consecration, Innocent III declared the papacy midway between God and man, and began the most audacious power grab in church history. In his analogy, he compared papal authority to the sun and the authority of kings to the moon, which derives its light from the sun. This imagery encapsulated his belief in papal supremacy over secular rule. Monarchs held their authority subject to divine and papal judgment. This conviction was born from a theological understanding of the Church's role in salvation, and the Pope's responsibility as the shepherd of all Christian souls. The Europe that Innocent III inherited was a complex tapestry of competing powers. Powerful monarchies clashed with local feudal lords and the Church. Into this arena, Innocent III stepped with a clear vision to assert the papacy's role as the supreme arbiter in both spiritual and temporal affairs, aiming to bring order and justice to Christendom under the Vicar of Christ. His excommunications weren't just edicts. They were psychological warfare. When Philip II of France dared remarry, Innocent froze an entire kingdom's sacraments until the king crawled back to his wife. Innocent didn't just pass laws, he rebuilt reality. At the Fourth Lateran Council of 1215, with 400 bishops trembling before him, he issued 70 canons that became the DNA of Western civilization. He launched the Fourth Crusade, though disastrously it ended in the sack of Constantinople, a Christian city. And here's where he might have changed your life. He codified church doctrine, required annual confession, and condemned heresy. Canon 3. Excommunicated heretics to be handed to secular authorities for due punishment, that is, burning. This directly enabled the Albigensian Crusades massacres and later Spanish Inquisition procedures. Canon 68. Jews and Muslims shall dress distinctively. While not yet yellow stars, this inspired Venice's 1516 ghetto and Nazi policies. Oh, the irony. His Holy Crusade sacked Christianity's greatest city, but Innocent? He feigned outrage, while quietly using the loot to build the Vatican's treasury. He wasn't just a pope, he was the ultimate medieval CEO, spiritual dictator, God's own shadow on earth, and proof that when popes play thrones, empires kneel. He acted as Emperor of Europe, shaping not only faith but policy. Every dictator's show trial, every faith-based passport control, every holy war, they all carry traces of Innocent's ink-stained fingerprints. Under Innocent, the papacy reached the apex of its political power, setting a model for what a medieval pope could be. Spiritual monarch of the West. The medieval world's most brilliant politician died suddenly in 1216. Some said poisoned during his campaign against Markwald von Anweiler to expand into Sicily. He was the architect of church supremacy and proof that when holiness and power merge, the earth trembles. Number 5. Emerging from the turbulent currents of late 15th century Italian politics, we encounter Giuliano della Rovere, who would ascend the papal throne as Pope Julius II. Born in 1443, not to princes, but to a modest Ligurian family. His uncle's rise as Pope Sixtus IV would drag him from provincial obscurity into the snake pit of Renaissance politics, and forge the most fearsome pontiff the Church had ever seen. As cardinal, he openly boasted of spending 200,000 ducats to bribe the 1492 conclave, a sum so vast it dwarfed kingdom's treasuries, meticulously recorded by stunned Venetian ambassadors. For 30 years he bribed, schemed, and fundraised his way through the Vatican's back rooms. He hated the Borgias, Christendom's original crime family, Spanish upstarts who turned the Vatican into their personal playground, with poison, orgies, and enough nepotism to make kings blush. The Borgias played dirty, but Julius played dirtier. After losing the 1492 papal election to Rodrigo Borgia, the future Alexander VI. Julius didn't just seethe, he went nuclear. His masterstroke? Convincing the French king to invade Italy under the guise of reforming the church. For 10 strategic years, Julius ruled from exile, part diplomat, part warlord. Vatican ledgers from 1496 show his genius. Alms for orphans meant buying Swiss mercenaries. Monastery repairs was for funding artillery. All while Borgia's assassins hunted him. He spun his banishment into the ultimate power play, whispering in King Charles VIII's ear as French armies stormed Italy, diverting church funds to arm mercenaries and waiting for his moment. Then, in the sweltering summer of 1503, the stars aligned. Alexander VI Borgia dropped dead, likely from his own poisoned wine. The Vatican gates swung open. And Julius didn't just return to Rome, he marched back with French cavalry at his back and vengeance in his heart. This wasn't an election, it was a siege by other means. As the corpse of Pius III, Alexander's short-lived successor, barely cooled in its tomb, Julius unleashed a masterclass in political brutality. He strong-armed cardinals with threats, bribed others with stolen Borgia gold, and when votes still wavered, he simply locked the conclave doors until the starving princes of the church saw reason. By the time the white smoke rose on November 1st, 1503, Julius hadn't just won the papacy, he'd rewritten the rules of holy warfare. And the first thing this new warrior pope did, not pray, not repent. He strapped on armor, personally led troops to reclaim papal lands, and with perfect irony, used the Borgia's own playbook of nepotism and intimidation to purge their legacy. The student had become the master, the exile now the emperor of Rome. All while commissioning a tomb from Michelangelo, Julius didn't just commission a tomb, he demanded a monument. Michelangelo's Moses wouldn't just memorialize the Pope, it would immortalize the moment a vengeful exile became Rome's unchallenged warlord Pope. Julius II reforged the papal tiara into a battle crown. When Bologna rebelled in 1506, this 63-year-old pope strapped on armor and led the assault himself, the last pontiff to charge into war. Venice dared challenge papal authority. Julius excommunicated the entire Serene Republic before morning mass, then formed the League of Cambrai to crush them, the NATO of its day. While French armies battered at Italy's gates and his own gout-ridden body failed him, Julius became obsessed with cementing his legacy in pigment and stone, cornering Michelangelo in 1508 with a demand to paint the ceiling or hang from it. And when Michelangelo tried to flee the Sistine Chapel project, Julius threatened to toss him off the scaffolding, birthing the Renaissance's defining masterpiece through sheer terror and vision. The Sistine Chapel's vault became their battlefield, the Pope hobbling in periodically to demand why Christ's ancestors weren't wearing enough gold, the artist secretly painting Julius's enemies suffering in hell. After a lifetime of wars, bribes, and bullying artists into genius, the great Julius II finally met an enemy he couldn't conquer, his own body. By February 1513, the 69-year-old Pope was ravaged by gout, syphilis, likely from his vigorous private life, and a fever that left him hallucinating. Some claimed he died screaming at cardinals to burn Protestant books, a problem he'd helped create. Others whispered the real cause was shame. His once mighty French allies had just betrayed him at the Battle of Ravenna. Whatever the truth, his last act was pure Julius, demanding Michelangelo work faster on his tomb, as if death itself should wait on his schedule. 5 centuries on, every tourist's gasp at Michelangelo's ceiling, every flashbulb lighting the Swiss Guard's stripes whispers his name, the warrior pope who proved faith could conquer empires, but art conquers time. Each of these popes has left an indelible mark upon the ancient office they held, contributing a vital chapter to the immense narrative of the papacy, a lineage stretching back nearly 2 millennia. If this exploration has offered you new insights, we invite you to support our work. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we hope to welcome you back for our next exploration into the forces that have shaped our world.